Welcome to Unboxed. Today we're going to be joined by the absolute legend of the game that is herself, Rachael Lynch. She's playing hockey at the highest level, best in the world, and then all of a sudden she was dropped from her team just before the Tokyo Olympics. Stay tuned to find out how she managed to stay true to her personal values on and off the pitch and how she managed to come through the worst moments of her life to continue chasing her dream. Let's get into it. Absolutely thrilled, buzzed, excited, more than everything else to be joined by an absolute idol of mine. We won't bring up ages or anything because I don't know if that will be appreciated, but I am extremely grateful to be joined by the one and only Rachael Lynch.
Hey, thanks for having me. Pumped to be here too.
Well, hopefully we'll just, chat a bit hockey, chat a bit live, chat a bit everything in between along the way, but we'll just do a quick intro of some small things that you may have done. So obviously, very insanely talented goalkeeper for Australia, can't underestimate it. I don't know if you will say that, but I will happily say that. Learned a lot from you, so we'll leave it at that. Made your senior debut in 2006. Correct me if I'm wrong. Most capped female goalkeeper for Australia.
Yes.
Casual. 2019 goalkeeper of the year and nominated 3 other times as well.
2 other times, but yep.
So 3 in total, but still, so just and a million medals in between. So between Commie Games, World Cups, everything in between there, you've done it all.
I never got the elusive Olympic medal, but still super proud of the others.
Yeah, I bet because any athlete would dream to have a resume like yours. So yeah, first, insane, congrats. What an honor. It's like I said, you've been idol of mine since I've started playing, so to be able to just chat, maybe a bit serious. It's it's great to have you here. So we'll just leave it at that because I'm just going to ramble now.
Appreciate you.
First up, there's a million things we want to obviously talk about, but we'll want to take it right back to the start of your career. So start of getting into the Hockeyroos, 2006. Talk to me about that. Where was young Rachael? How did you find out you were going to get your first cap? How did you get brought in? How did you get your first cap? How did it feel? Tell me about that.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't in the squad or anything. So the initial maybe exposure, if you want to call it, in Australia, we play in our national league. So I played for Victoria. I had 2 years playing in the Vic team. But at the time, Rachael Imeson, who was the Aussie goalie, she was also Victorian. So it kind of got to a point where I needed some minutes. She was playing most of the games. So I ended up playing for Northern Territory, who are a very hot state or territory up the top of Australia, but not super strong in hockey. They often had a few little imports. The year I played, we had an awesome team. I don't think we won a single game, but it was good for me because it meant I got heaps of work. After that, nothing happened. Team came out, wasn't in it, or the squad came out. But then I was actually here, so I'm at my parents' house at the moment, and I remember I was in my bedroom. I got a phone call from the national coach, just out of the blue, and he rang me and said, "Just ring to let you know that you'll be going to, or we need you to come to Holland, or I think it was the UK first in 2 weeks, and you're going to make your debut for Australia." And of course, completely out of the blue, I hung up the phone and I just burst into tears. And it wasn't because I was going to be playing for Australia. It was because it was the start of our uni holidays, so June, July holidays, and I had so many plans. So it was this crazy thing of, really, really excited to be going over. But I had a holiday with my best mate. We were going to Thailand. I was in the under-21 Vic team. We'd just done our huge build-up campaign, so we're about to go away for that. I had a friend's 21st. I had my own birthday. There was just all this stuff, and it was so overwhelming that it was in order to go and chase my dream and I guess do the one thing that I've always wanted, I had to let a whole lot of people down. So probably the first of many times where that happened in a way that hockey, as you'd know, makes you miss a lot of things. Went over to England first at Bisham Abbey. We stayed there. The debut was actually in England, and then we went on to the Champions Trophy in Holland. So very memorable, very special. and the start of what ended up being a 15-year long career.
Very long and an illustrious 15 long year career, to say the least. Anyway, how did you find it going into the group? Were you like, as a young, I don't want to say kid, but like as a young person, you were probably, there was a lot of different personalities. You were still maybe trying to figure out who you were as a player, as a goalkeeper. How was that?
Yeah, well, I was the youngest in the group at that time, from memory, and actually I got to play with Rachel Emerson, so she was my idol, and because I'd played with her for Victoria, that was already a thrill, and then to play with her for Australia, like, unbelievable. I roomed with her. I already had the nickname Junior because of another Rach that I played with, but that just slotted in perfectly now in the Australian team, so they started calling me Junior as well, just so that we didn't get confused. And I think that, the team, when I look back, for sure, there was a couple of the girls that were like pretty intimidating. Some of them, verging on like scary, I would say. But then there was the ones that were just super warm and did whatever they could to kind of help me fit in. And one of them was Angie Skirving, or Angie Lambert, and she was playing sort of half back at the time. So having that sort of, like, I guess, confidence from a defender that was, really helping me really fit into the team, that made a big difference. But I ended up having my birthday when I was over there, and even that felt a bit lonely because it was, I had a couple of friends in the team, but not really. So it was just this bizarre, how did I get here? But also just trying to enjoy it. I remember the actual first game. We had our heart rate monitors that we used to wear, and they'd look at the data afterwards. And mine hit its max or peaked in the anthem. So before I even got on the field, and it didn't get back to that height, goalie things. So I was clearly very nervous, but just like amazing. And you think it's just going to be all your dreams come true, but it's still pretty stressful.
It's slightly stressful. But at what point did you find that you were that, not that it was normal? I don't think you can never say it's normal playing for your country, but at what time did you feel that you got a bit more comfortable with that? So obviously, as you say, you're hitting your max heart rate during an anthem.
Not for ages, really. I can't sort of remember, playing with a real confidence. That didn't happen till, I'd say, 2016, I'd say. So in the lead up to the Rio Olympics. So what's that, 8 years later? I did a lot of work around my belief in myself. I knew I had the ability and I could make sort of match saving saves, but it was the consistency and going out there and not letting in soft goals. I suppose when you're just getting, a few minutes here and there, or half games or whatever it was, it's like you want to do a good job. You put that pressure on, and you need the coach to know that when they put you in, you'll get most of the job done or save the majority. And I probably wasn't at that point until around 2016. So the in between is just learning, lots of stuff that I suppose you have to learn through doing. There was plenty of non-selection. I was in and out in the first 2 years, and then 2008 Olympics, so Beijing, I was the third of the three goalies and never really expected to get in. But then Rach retired after that, and I suppose that's when things started going a little bit better for me. So it's hard. Like, I don't know, when did you feel like you actually felt like you fit in and comfortable?
Well, I'm almost 10 years in and we're still working on that, I think. I think like I was maybe I'd say a little bit different in a way, in the sense that like so I was pulled in like whenever I was really young, so like 17. I had my first cap the day after my 18th birthday, and then I would think it was less than a year later, then Emma Gray retired, who was there for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden I'm in. So so I was like number one just turning 19. Like, so it was a weird thing at that time. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the number one for my country. Like, one, this is insane. But then I'm like, on the other hand, I'm the number one for my country. What am I doing? I'm like, I barely know how to put my gear on in time to be shot for training. Like, how am I meant to do this? But I think, like you say, it was such like a learning process in myself, and kind of similar, where it's like, I knew I was good enough, but I don't think I actually believed in myself enough to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, getting that consistency, yeah, I think as goalkeepers, yeah, it's about learning and doing. But yeah, I think I was closed off to a lot of, I don't say help around me, but to a lot of people wanting to help me, which probably took then obviously delayed the process a bit longer,
Yeah, sure.
trying to get comfortable. That yeah, that was something for me. So I think like now, yeah, I would say like now because I took a year out from the team to like work on myself on a few things that now I would say I'm actually okay. Like I feel truly myself. I feel comfortable in how I play. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's a secret. Like anyone can do the hours of training and, um, invest in your technique and gain experience. But yeah, I just think it's how you feel about yourself that is going to allow you to play well and, um, yeah, to trust your training and go out, not second guess things, and just because our position is so reactive and
Mm-hmm.
you can't be proactive really in any way other than with your calling and things. So there's so many variables that dictate how we play, and I think having that calm sort of confidence and belief in yourself allows you just to relax and trust. And I think back, now when I step out on the field, obviously not the level that it used to be, but I was just watching the shootouts then for the Olympics, and a friend messaged me, and she's just said, a hockey friend, she's like, "Oh, this must bring up some pretty solid memories for you." And I said, "It's way harder watching. Like, put me in there any day. I'd rather be taking the shootouts." Or playing in them than watching them, because yeah, when you're in the moment, it's just like, yep, this is what I do. So
Yeah, you just kind of go into that little bubble where it's like the outside world almost doesn't exist,
yep, for sure.
pretty much. Okay, so you were talking there about your like getting that belief in yourself. Did you find that was that something you did yourself? Or did you use your teammates? You said you were close to one. Did you use other people? Like how did you develop that belief in yourself to know you could do it?
Yeah, so funny story. In the 2016 year, so it was my third attempt at an Olympics. So I missed out in Beijing, missed out in London. So by that point, I'd been in the team for 10 years and still hadn't made an Olympics. And the fear of that happening again um, was weighing on me pretty heavily. So 2012, I would say I ruled myself out in a way. Like I only played, I think, 3.5 games that year, and each one, I think I probably played one good half out of all of that. And each time it was like, a mistake, goal goes in, the fear of like, what does this mean? Maybe another goal goes in, the result, then thinking, well, I'm not going to get another chance. So just that kind of like constant, I suppose, fear. I was playing with fear. And so that was what I was worried about for 2016. And I managed to get a couple of sponsors that year, personal sponsors. And one of them was was it was a chicken sponsorship. So instead of getting money, I went for food and like produce, because I was like, well, I need healthy food, and that will reduce my shopping bill. And for a big organization like a couple of farms and stuff, it meant nothing really to them. They were just happy to make a very small donation. So I used to go to the market every Saturday, and I'd go see my chicken farmer and pick up some nice chicken. Um, Sorry to all the vegans listening. So I'd go get the chicken, and one day, the guy Jeff, who I pick it up from, he was like, "Oh, how many days?" And I said, "How many days till what?" And he said, "How many days till the Olympics?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not sure." And he's like, "Nah, absolutely not. You need to already know that. You need to have your head there that you're going to go." He knew a little bit about my situation. Anyway, so he's like, "Righto, we're going to go for a coffee." So I ended up meeting him later that day. I went to my favorite cafe, which ironically was a vegan cafe. Um, so met Jeff there, and turns out he's like a bit of a life coach. So he'd been, as well as being this organic chicken farmer, he did this sort of stuff on the side. So sat down with me and essentially, I guess, taught me that like your brain can't really tell the difference. It can create these neural pathways just by things that you tell it, rather than so I guess it's the info that you're feeding in. So we together worked on these positive affirmations. So I think I ended up with 7 or 8, and the language in them was like very particular. So he helped me sort of break down the things that I was good at, and in a language that wasn't it wasn't false. Like it wasn't like I'm the best keeper in the world, because that's, I wouldn't have believed that. Wouldn't have mattered how many times I said it to myself. It was really specific. So it was like, that the team look to me for leadership, and I have a fierce desire to stop the ball going in the net, just stuff like that. So we worked on these together, and from that day onwards, every morning, as soon as I woke up, first thing I read. Every night before I lay down, it was the last thing I read. And over that sort of, whatever it was, 8 or so months in the lead up, I was basically training myself to believe in myself. And what it also did was it gave me, like, I guess, a reference point. So, of course, when I was training, there were still times where, the other goalie would make a save and everyone's like, yeah, good save. And then you're like, what's that mean for me? Or you'd see the goalie talking to the coach and then you get paranoid. And so it was always, I just had this, back to me. What am I doing? Back to me, back to me. And that helped swap sort of like more a positive language that I was telling myself rather than the negative, more fearful, maybe paranoid language that I was doing naturally. So yeah, and it's changed my life. Like, I guess being able to have that clarity around who I am, the things that I'm good at, just really allowed me to, step out on the field and just be, like I said, that calm confidence. And these affirmations, no one saw them. Like, I didn't show anyone. I didn't tell any of my teammates about it. My coaches didn't know. It was just this private thing that I was doing. And, I've said to Jeff many times afterwards, like, it made the difference for me. I got selected, and I played pretty consistently from that point on. So I now try and incorporate it in some of my coaching, a bit of mentoring stuff that I do with younger athletes or hockey players. It's just working on that. It's like how you feel about yourself, what you say to yourself. That's where I think, especially for females, you can make like a tangible difference in how someone performs rather than spending hours and hours and hours training something.
Oh, I completely agree, because it's almost that the how you talk to yourself about yourself is like, not everyone trains that, and not everyone has the ability to really work at that for themselves, because yeah, I find it can also be quite confronting, because it's not as if, yeah, like, you might not just always stay positive. It's easy to say, okay, I want to stay positive, I want to have my affirmations, but did you ever find at times that you maybe switched out of that, started going back negative, and then, so how then did you come back into that, like, positive, or like talking, remembering your own affirmations about yourself?
Yeah, I think there was a bit of separation there, probably because I would also say I'm very hard on myself and very critical of myself, but I guess you can kind of look at things maybe a bit more rationally when you know what you're about. And yeah, I didn't want it from others. Like, probably same as you seek out that really critical feedback, because it's like, well, that's the stuff I can fix. So yeah, it definitely took time, but I think it was the just coming back to the focus of myself, because your main competitor is the teammate standing next to you. And I suppose as I was going through that of not only trying to be the best in the Australian team, I just shifted it to be like, well, my target is the best in the world. And it's like everyone else around, learning from different international keepers and what's everyone else doing, because it wasn't enough for me to just be the number one in Australia, because yeah, it's like, it was, how much better can I get, and how can I really influence this group? And look, it's not to say, I mean, from 2016 to 2024, we were often sharing games. I missed out on tournaments. It's not like it was just this smooth run after that. But I think it's linked in with definitely now having a greater awareness of my values as well. And therefore, when I make decisions, it just makes everything so much easier, because you're driven by the things that are important to you, and all of that, rather than sort of like what people think, or all of the other noise maybe.
Yeah, that comes with it. Do you find that your values kind of in hockey would be similar to values you have about yourself away from the sport, about who you are, who you want to be, what you want to, yeah, bring to those around you? Would you find there's very similar crossover in that?
Yeah, definitely the crossover, but unfortunately it was the thing that got me in trouble as well. Um, like, honesty is a big one for me. And yeah, as well, sometimes you can't be honest in a team. and you've got to, like, play the game a little bit. I really tried hard to build strong relationships so I could be honest with my teammates, and that's what I wanted from them as well. But in a group of 20 something odd girls, you've got to tread carefully with some things. Kindness is another one for me. That was an easy one. I just tried to do the right thing and be kind to people in and out of hockey. But then same integrity, there's a few different things that I suppose in any team environment, you might have like everyone with slightly different values, but there might be values that are conflicting or that clash. And without that clarity of, well, what are the team values? And we didn't always have that. Once you know the team ones, it's like, okay, well, how do I fit into that? But I think probably within the Hockeyroos that might have fallen down occasionally of like, well, yeah, let's be really clear what we're about as a team. Because then we're kind of all working within the confines of that rather than everyone off doing their individual thing, which just doesn't work.
Did you find that kind of almost transition in a way to having not real clear values to then having clear ones? Did you find that came naturally to you to want to be part of that? Or was it something that you had to like work at yourself if it maybe wasn't the same value that you had? Or how did you find that whole process?
Well, we had an I suppose it was from 2011 to 2016 that we were probably the most clear in the group. In my opinion, it was like who we were, what we were about, what we were trying to do, and then just fiercely protect it. That was kind of a time where I remember working on that as a group. I remember we performed so well in that time. Like that was a period where we made a final in every comp that we went to. We had our silver at the World Cup, 2 gold medals in the Com Games. So there was definitely something in it that the group was united in that way. But then it's really fluctuated. So it's not until later in my career that I suppose I really saw the value in it personally. But it's I'm not in charge of the team, and you've got to be able to slot in with whoever the psych is that's running it, or if it's the coach that's really driving it, or whatever that scenario is. And I've had 3 different head coaches, so therefore 3 different eras and programs, and 4 actually, but it keeps changing. And it's kind of like your boss or the CEO of your company, if they change, then a lot of things change. So being able to adapt, and I suppose the thing that I think I probably did well was I could adapt within the group. So I think I played with over 100 and something different girls across my career, and maybe my ability to be silly and immature when I was older, and like I suppose blending into the different groups was a strength of mine, and that's what allowed me to keep going, even though at the end I was the oldest and at the start I was the youngest. So you got to be pretty adaptable, I think.
The oldest, but with probably the youngest mindset, or well, not mindset's the wrong word, the youngest attitudes, or comes with fun.
For sure, the sense of humor, and that's what I used to love. It's like when you're in a team, it's like you have no concept of how old everyone is, because you just feel the same, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, you're 10 years younger than me. Like, it's great. I just love learning from the younger ones, and it just gives you a great perspective, because that was you at one point, and now it's like, well, being kind to new athletes that come in, how much that affects you, because you were the new one at one point.
Did you find that, I don't want to say the generational change, but we just have to talk, since we're already on it, the generational change of athletes coming in now? Do you find there's a big difference, say, to when you were younger, to how you manage that?
For sure. 100%. The way we were spoken to, you can't speak to anyone anymore like that. I have no regrets around that. A bit of tough love back then, I think, was awesome. It was very memorable. It definitely hardens you up, and you learn quickly. A key one was our central defender, Halliday, who she'd been in the team for a long time. She was a senior player, and I think probably our captain at the time, or around then. And she just turned around. It would have been in one of my first couple of games, and turned around and she said, "You need to call me." And from that moment on, it was like, yes, boss. Like, you're nervous because it's like you're scared and just worrying about yourself, let alone trying to call your defenders. But she came at me so strong that I was like, okay, need to do it. There was no sort of softly approach. And I think back to that, Em and I get along well now, and it's great. But try that now, and there might be tears, or who knows what could happen. So I definitely think it is different now, but that's a new challenge, I suppose.
Slightly. Do you find do you find yourself sometimes, I don't want to say falling back into old habits, but whenever you're playing, if there's say a young one in front of you, do you ever get where you're like, mark your player, but then you're like, oh no, they're panicking now. I can't say it like that. Can you please step to the right and mark your player? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's a thing. As I said, I reckon it's the investment you make in people off the field that then allows you to deliver hard messages, to be a bit firm, and they know it's coming from a good place. And I've probably surrounded myself with people who are like that my whole life. Like my closest friends will absolutely call me out on things, and I am so grateful for that we can have those sorts of relationships. So within a team, it's like I will do whatever I can to support you so that you know that when I am a bit firm, that it's because I care about you.
Yeah, it's taking that perspective of I wouldn't do it if I didn't value you as a person and what you're trying to do
Yeah.
and bring
Yeah.
to the team. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a good way to look at it because it's, yeah, I think ultimately like we choose to play team sport. We choose to do crazy, yeah, try and do crazy things. Like people are like, oh, you just play hockey, but it's no, like we're trying to play hockey at the highest level. We're trying to win stuff. We're trying to qualify for tournaments. So sometimes it does need a bit of that, tough love in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it hurts. It's elite sport. We're at the top level, but yeah, it's definitely changing.
For sure. There's some of these kids are saying, like, I would say I'm quite hip, but some of the kids nowadays, they're like talking about stuff. And I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
So it's really, oh, we're pushing on my years now.
Yeah, you got to keep up. I reckon some of the socials I've tried to like immerse myself in, and if there's ever a TikTok going around, I'll jump into it just to sort of like, yeah, try and be a part of the younger generation's version of creativity and fun.
Yeah, I feel like I'm looking to you for like, okay, this is inspiration. If Lynchy can do it, like, come on, there is hope for me yet. I can be a bit cool.
I would not say that I'm cool at all, but I actually just try and be normal. I get the feedback. They're like, "Oh, you're normal for a keeper," so I'll take that.
Yeah, that's a common one. It's always you're normal for a keeper, and I'm like, no, like I would say we're quite normal folk.
Well, I'm pretty sure I would say internationally, the keepers that I'm friends with, yourself, and like the normal ones, I reckon.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
we connect together because normal.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Let's move forward a little bit. So we've already kind of mentioned it. 2019 goalkeeper of the year. You've already discussed that yeah, didn't want to just be the best in Australia. You wanted to be the best in the world. How did it feel hearing that, knowing that you were the best goalkeeper in the world in 2019, also nominated 2 other times? What, like when you first heard that, what was the first feeling that came to you?
I suppose. I mean, it was super special. I've never wanted those individual accolades. That's why we play in a team sport. I think you want to be able to share big moments with your friends and with your teammates. But I guess it kind of, yeah, it was never a target for me, but it was something that I guess allowed me to, I don't know if it's all of the hard stuff, all the shit that sort of goes on in there, sitting on the bench, missing tournaments, bad days at training, all of that sort of stuff. It's like, wow, maybe it's all worth it to get to that level. And I think it's, yeah, the pride in getting something that's, I guess, about you. And like, I mean, it's a voting competition at the end of the day. So I sort of also took it with a grain of salt, but because I'd felt like there were tournaments and stages throughout my career where I genuinely did feel like I was one of the best in the world, it was quite nice to, I guess, have it maybe noticed or recognized. And yeah, so yeah, really special. And my teammates made it, into a really big thing, and as do the media. And I can still picture, I still picture the moment where the coach told us he brought everyone in, and naturally, heart rate's going high because we're in trouble, like we've done something wrong. And yeah, he just brought us all in to announce it. So it was cool. I'm really proud of it, and yeah, it's maybe that's why the individual athletes do it. They get to feel that all the time, and because it's just about them rather than the group. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'd be similar in the way that it's like we compete in a team sport. It's kind of on one hand, it's in a sense, it's a little bit of recognition because of the effort that and the sacrifices and the troubles and everything that has gone on throughout the years. Like you said, you played, yeah, almost 10 years before you're really kind of uncomfortable with yourself. So then it's okay after having so long of that to then be recognized in a way, being like, okay, like it kind of confirms to yourself a little bit that okay, I am good at what I do. What I do, I deserve to be here. But I
Mm.
think it's maybe twofold in that way, where it's like, okay, you wouldn't be here without your team,
Yep.
but you've also sacrificed so much to do this. Like anyone, everyone playing international level has. But
Mm.
yeah, I think it's just I don't know. There's still something I think about it that you just have a little bit of pride for yourself and almost okay, everything was worth it.
Mm. Well, especially as well with, I guess with the introduction of shootouts, the goalie plays a pretty different role now. But prior to that, it was like, really, we're not the ones scoring the winners. Very rarely does the goalie get noticed, and I'm quite happy with that. But I suppose it's then a bigger jump. So when we do get recognised, it's quite an honour, if you like, in that way.
Yeah, it kind of makes the goal. Yeah, I don't know. Now it's kind of like, oh, like people want to become a goalkeeper because they want that challenge of, I want the responsibility. Like, I want to be the last person standing. I want to step up when it needs to. Instead of
Mm.
before, it was always like, oh, no, the goalie, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Lugging around the gear, it stinks, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
To be fair, mine doesn't. Just putting out there, I wash it normally every other week. But
Me too. Love that. See,
yeah,
normal goalies, normal
thank
people.
you. You know what? We're here for this. We'll start a club. There's two of us for now. We'll put out invites to see who else is willing
There
to
won't be
join.
many. I don't think there'll
No,
be many.
I think not because I do not know many people that wash their gear every other week or every week. Okay, so let's go a year after you obviously won goalkeeper of the year. Might be a little bit tough, but you were then dropped in 2020 from the Australia team.
Hmm.
Um, I can only imagine the mix of emotions and everything that came with that. If you can maybe talk about that a little bit and how you handled that.
It's a time that I look back on as, yeah, definitely one of the hardest periods of my life, and challenged me in so many ways, and the people around me as well. But yeah, it was a phone call. We'd had a lot happen in that sort of in the lead up to this within our group. There'd been a fair bit of unrest. We'd had our three captains step down because they didn't agree with what was going on. We'd had assistant coach walk for the same reason, and just had that feeling that something bad was going to happen. And I suppose even though I'd won or I'd had the recognition really recently of goalkeeper of the year, I felt like I was in the form of my career. Like I felt like I was playing well. I was, obviously well established within the group, not officially, but had, I saw myself as a leader in the team. And because of the Olympics being postponed, they decided to reselect. And when they did, instead of picking the 27, they picked 25, and they left myself and Georgie Morgan out. So it was pretty wild. We'd never had an appeal or anything in hockey before, but we were both advised to do that given the nature of the circumstances. And certainly for me, it was my recent acknowledgement as well, sort of showed the position I was in form wise. And yeah, from then on, the appeal, it definitely, it challenged me to lean on again my values, and having that period in 2016 where I had that belief in myself allowed me throughout that period to one, know and believe that I'd done nothing wrong, that I was very clear with who I was, what was driving everything that I did, the things that I said and the way that I played. All of those things were very values driven. But two, it allowed me to have the belief at the end that I was still the one to take us to the Olympics and help us win. And with that, I suppose, carrot in mind, that's how day after day, like from the moment I was dropped, I had nothing to do with the program. No one contacted me. I lost all the funding, lost the access to all the medical, physio, everything, literally from that moment. And, but yeah, I knew the girls' program, so I just made sure that I was training as much as they were, if not more. But the challenge was, I'm a goalie, like it's pretty hard to train by yourself.
Yeah.
um, And by that point, because it was COVID, as a nurse, I was working full time. I'd got a management role with a mining company, so I was actually working 7 days a week. I did that for 9 months straight. And the thing that got me out of bed, one was the work, and that was something I'd fought really hard to make sure we could have work, because previously we sort of had to be, full time athletes. I'd had my commitment questioned because I wanted to work. But I also knew that, I wanted to fight for my spot and get back in. And when I did, I wanted to be in the best shape ever. And it took a huge toll physically on me anyway. I think I got to a point where I was thankfully seeing a psych already. She played a massive role in helping me through it. But yeah, going through the legal appeal was horrible, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. But had incredible support, like a lawyer that came on board, who she did it pro bono for us, Lorraine, like an absolute amazing human. My psych, the doctor, people that just really stepped up from outside the organisation to support myself and Georgie. And yeah, it went for 150 days. We thought it would be maybe a week or two, and ended up training by myself for 150 days. And by the time we won the appeal, and that was the hardest bit, because we didn't know the time frame. We had the pressure of the Olympics and knowing we needed things to go quickly because we wanted to get back in, but also not. It could have been any day. It was like, oh, this delay, and then this email, and you got to read this 60-page document and then write stuff back, and this back and forth of like the most horrific things you can imagine reading about yourself. And I felt physically sick majority of the time, because it was just like, how can these things be said about me? And but as I said, I knew who I was and what I was about, and had my head held high the whole time, and managed to come through it. So a full on time. But it certainly, if I think back to then going to the Olympics, I had like four weeks maybe prep with the team, rather than 4 years, or in this case 5 years. But the girls are amazing, and I could really trust my years of experience, but also trust my ability. It took a couple of sessions to get my my hands and my feet going again, as you know, but otherwise, back on track. And we'd had a whole clean out within the program, and it was just nice to see the girls able to play without fear, and really enjoy themselves, have a laugh, all of the things that hockey should be about.
Yeah. Did you ever find there was days during the process where you're just like, why am I doing this? It's not worth it. And constantly, those sort of questions. Like, how did you, one, find yourself going into that, but then two, remember, was it coming back to your own values? Was it, the car of the Olympics? What was it that kept you driving through it?
Yeah, part of it I think as well was I'd done a lot of work with Are You OK? So ambassador for their mental health. It was like a suicide prevention strategy, and the work that I put in, I guess trying to live and breathe that, and especially within the Hockeyroos, it was now coming back to me. And I had girls in my team that were like genuinely checking in on me every single day, and it challenged me to be honest, because majority of the time when they asked, I was like, no, I'm not okay. But just the reassurance and the consistency of, I'm here for you. Like obviously none of them knew what it was like to go through it. They didn't know how to fix it, but it was just like, I'm here for you. If you want to go for a walk, I had all different offers like that, which were amazing. But I remember one day I went for a bike ride, and that was that's sort of always been my outlet, but it was how I did my conditioning, because I'm not a huge runner. So I was riding a lot, and because it was a legal appeal, it was all very confidential. We had the media ringing all the time. I couldn't tell anyone anything. And even I was trying hard to just really keep it in house, because it was like a nasty thing. I didn't want anyone else to kind of have to ride that wave as well. But because it was like I was hurting so bad and these things were being said, I remember on this bike ride one day, well, I always, whenever I rode, I used to think, okay, if I came off, how long would it take me if I did my collarbone? Like, when's the next tournament? Like, that was always in my head. Whereas this particular time, I remember thinking, I went for this ride and I was like, I hope I come off, because then people will see the physical hurt that I'm feeling in here. There'll be like a physical version of that. And that's when I knew I was in a bit of strife, when I started having those thoughts. And as I said, I had really great psych support, but just the anxiety of the scenario, I'd never felt anxious about things before. And then all of a sudden it was like I was feeling that all the time. And it was very circumstantial, but these things were happening to my body and my mind that, I'd never had before. And I think having the team around me, all those, I guess, little networks and the people, and when I say team, it's like not the hockey team, it's my friends, my family, and all of that were there that really helped me through that, because it's not something you can do by yourself. Like, there was so many days where it was, just tears, or sitting out the front of work in the car, like looking a mess. And I'm like, I can't go in now because the people in my job, they don't know any of this. So they just think I'm the nurse manager that works there, not that I'm going through this legal battle. So it was pretty rough.
Did you find being able to have those people around you that were close that you could open up and talk to, did you find that made it a lot easier, or did it take work also on your side to be comfortable sharing things with them on how you were feeling?
There was a mixture of, like how your work and your things outside can be that separation, and where you can not, or the distraction. So that was important too. But I remember there was a guy who used to sit, so we're in like these, I guess, pods, if you like, a guy that used to sit on an angle from me. And I think he was just like a really intuitive man, a very kind man. And he said to me one day, he must have just noticed, he had no idea about hockey. And I think he just said to me, he's like, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I think." And then he walked around and stood next to me, and he just said, "Have you got people to talk to?" And I said, "Yep." And he's like, "Okay, that's all I need to know." And after all of it, I just said to him, he was like this sort of like guardian angel that was watching over me. He didn't need to know anything. He didn't ask me. He just wanted to make sure that I had someone to talk to and that I was supported, because I'm not going to go and talk to him about it. And I think he knew that, but he just always sort of had an eye on me. And I really, really appreciated that. And I made sure to acknowledge and thank all of those people at the end of it, to be like, I noticed, and it really helped me. Because sometimes people don't know what to do. People feel really helpless, and they don't know how to offer support because they can't solve it.
As you mentioned, it's not like a physical injury. It's not like something, okay, this is where I'm hurting, it's in my head, but you can't see it, so people can't comprehend. So the fact then, if people are able to just ask, or is it like if it's send a message or just call, or if to see people in public, I think, that just, it opens a door to be noticed and be like, okay, we see you're hurting. We might not be able to help, but we see you. Okay, so we've already mentioned it a few times, and you brought it up with how amazing your manager's been. But you obviously work a dual career. I don't say obviously, but you chose to work a dual career as a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Where did this passion come from? When did you decide that I want to be a nurse? How did that all stem? Where did it come from?
Yeah, well, when I finished school, I wanted to be a sports psych. So I went straight into a course like human movement and psychology. And it was pretty good. I think I probably just went, I like sport. I know sport. So the course it felt sort of easy and manageable. I did 6 months and then had to defer for 6 months because we had our Junior World Cup prep. And then after that, actually, whilst I was doing the course, I had to do some volunteer hours as part of it. And I chose to do it at a nursing home. So I was doing some like diversional therapy with the oldies, just general arts and craft and music and different things. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in that setting. And Mum was a nurse as well, so it was reasonably familiar. So then I transferred across, started the nursing course, and I could tell from my first placement that I was going to love it, and been doing it ever since. So that was 2010, and still nursing today. So 14 years, and like very part-time. It was definitely a small part of my week because of our training program, but I've had it pretty consistently through there, and it was just a great way to get some perspective in my week and in my life, I suppose.
So you went from, was it a neuro nurse?
Neuro rehab,
and then you worked on during COVID. How did you find obviously the two different areas, the chaos with COVID?
Yeah.
How did you manage yourself during that?
Well, in between is when I was with this mining company. So I had, I think 10 years on the neuro rehab ward, which I just absolutely loved. It suited my hockey because most of the patients stayed with us for a number of months. So they would have their stroke or MS relapse or whatever. They'd go to the acute hospital and then they'd come to us, and it was like physio, OT, very busy days of rehab. But it meant that I could go away on a tournament for 3 weeks and come back and have the same patients. And I also liked that the probably like injuries, the rehab was there was a motivation element, and I loved playing a role with that. It was like, they didn't want to get out of bed some mornings. You're like, nah, come on, let's get you going, get you dressed, get you ready for your day, and encouraging them to do their training, if you like. So then when COVID hit, because I was only doing the 1 day a week, I thought I just wanted to pick up extra shifts because hockey had stopped. But everyone really stepped up and jumped in, so there was no shifts. I couldn't get any extra shifts, bizarrely. And Perth had a very unique experience with COVID. It didn't really come there till later, but so I ended up, applying for this job through a friend. It was all very bizarre how I ended up getting it, but got this job as the nurse, or was called the regional nurse manager for their COVID program. So I ran the whole COVID testing program for this mining company's testing. We were testing every worker before they went to site, each swing. So it was like this wild operation of thousands and thousands of tests. So that was quite a change, but I really loved it. It was a management role. I had, 2 phones. I was on call all the time. Whereas nursing, it's like when your shift finishes, that's it. You're done, and you can safely and comfortably hand it over to the next nurse. Whereas this job, super different, but I loved it and learned so much. And then from there afterwards, and actually after Tokyo, I got the job at a COVID clinic. And again, wild. I had an amazing boss. They were really supportive. And I felt like I was really in the thick of it there because, we had a lot of unwell people coming through. We're in a city hospital, so we're dealing with like, what do you do when a homeless person turns up and they test positive and they have to isolate for 2 weeks? They can't afford a hotel. They don't have a home. They've probably got it from the people that they're, on the streets with. And there was some complexities. We had a very high Indigenous population in the city in Perth. So I learned a lot there as well. And it's a great level of health, I think, to, as I said, when you're out there doing cool stuff and playing sport, it's like, no, actually there's some bigger things going on in the world, and it's nice to have that reminder.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing in a way when you're able to get that balance of life away from sport is like there are bigger things out there in the world. Like people have experienced so many different things, and it's okay, yes, sport is amazing. Sport brings so many opportunities to people as individuals, gives them platforms, but also, it's just sport. It's just, in a way, you're just playing hockey. Like you're just chasing after a ball. You're just, as us, we just like to stand in the way and get hit by a ball.
Stopping them.
Yeah. So I think I would agree in that sense. It's a great, leveler to life. There's more out there than what just meets the eye of being this famous, insane, talented hockey goalkeeper. That's you, by the way, not me. I would.
Well, I was going to say, what's yours? What's that for you? I mean, I see Instagram and lots of, family time with your little crew and the dog and nature and, where is it for you?
That's a great one. I think like I've had so many different experiences in my life from, like losing my mum when I was younger, being in foster care. I think like I had quite a lot of traumas quite early in my life. And so it's only really in the past kind of year, 2 years that I've taken that understanding as like I'm being comfortable about it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not, as a kid, you don't really say, oh yeah, I was in foster care, like be my friends. So I think now it's like it's like now I feel comfortable with it. And I have realized there's so many kids in different situations, in harder situations than what I've been in. So that's a big part of why I wanted to do this. I wanted to chat to so many people because everyone has a different story, a different background. So, and prime example, like social media is just, it shows the cherry on top. It shows me and with my dog on our probably 6th walk of the day, going to get a coffee. Do you know what I mean? It just shows that side of thing. But people, everyone, not just athletes, not just everyone has their own story. And I think that we can all learn small bits from each other. So I think I'm now in that phase where I'm like, yes, I love my sport. It has brought me so many places, but yeah, it's just sport. It's just hockey. Do you know what I mean? So I would say I'm in that now where I'm able to kind of really reflect back and be like, yeah, it's just hockey. Like, okay, like I'm got it that I'm not at the Olympics, but it's just hockey. As hard as still it hurts to say. Well,
Yeah. Did you tell part of that story? Like, how did that, your story and your upbringing, influence your spot in the team and how you sort of fit into the team and playing at a high level and stuff? I know I've just flipped. This podcast is now going to be about you. I'm just curious. Yeah, what you wish.
At the start, no. So like people I think at home were aware. So like I was a young kid coming in, like this really happy, outgoing, happy kid who just wanted to play sport, wanted to do everything. Like I would remember getting the train from my hometown, like an hour and a half up to Belfast to then meet someone to get a lift down to Dublin to then go and do training, like doing all this stuff because I was just like, I love hockey, like this is what I want to do. But it wasn't really, and it wasn't until 2 years ago. So I like stepped away from the team after the World Cup in 2022. Yeah, that was the split one. So I kind of had like quite a big breakdown because it was just, yeah, it was that kind of thing. Just put everything in a box. I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm outgoing. I will talk to anyone. Like I love my sport, but I had so many different things in my life that I never dealt with, and I didn't feel comfortable in myself with sharing or asking for help because yeah, I was a young kid. Um, yeah, like I was a single parent household. My mom passed away. I was then into care. So then you're just so used to doing stuff for yourself. But for me, that was my normal. So that's what I knew. That's what you just have to get on with. It's not like, yeah, okay, you maybe see your friends and whatnot, but still, it's my normal. It's in my bubble of my house. So yeah, it wasn't until then I kind of stepped away from the team, went to therapy, got a lot of help, and still to this day working through a lot of it. But I've shared a lot of that with the team whenever I was coming back in, being like, look, this is my situation. This is, and like real example could be like I could just be having a really terrible day off the pitch with myself, but then I'd come on, say, for training, and then I'd be barking at people. And everyone would be like, oh, he's just in a mood today, whatever. But actually, it's no, they now understand why, because that door was opened for me to come back in and be more open. And so the team psych she is fantastic. One of the best psychs I've ever worked with in my life. Like she's just like, she's like one of those like moms of the team. Like she's a psych, but she's everything else in between. And she to this day is brilliant. Will always check in on me, always text me just to make sure I'm doing okay. And whenever we come back in, whenever I was coming back into the team, she was a big factor in that. So my goalie coach were huge factors in that to make sure that the space was safe for me to come back in. And yeah, we didn't know what was going to trigger me or whatnot, but it was always that if something happened, I know I could turn to her, or she would always make sure it was okay. So yeah, it wasn't until later on that I really started sharing that, and where I think I accepted that maybe it's not like it was my normal childhood, but it's maybe not a normal childhood, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's definitely, and like still to this day, still working through a lot of it. And my team have been amazing. Like girls will just come and just put an arm around me, and like I'm one of those ones like I will talk, like I'll be open when I'm ready to be open. And so they also accept that. So they might just come like throw an arm around me and right, let's go. And then we'll go outside and play football or something, because they just know I just need a distraction, or I just need pulled out of myself in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you said earlier, around the way you make people feel, or the way people make you feel as well, like because this is such a big part of your life and you spend so much time with your teammates and stuff, to feel safe enough knowing that people know you and that you can like 100% be yourself, and that's actually okay. You're not going to get in trouble for it or not picked for it or punished. Or I think when you've got people in your circle that are like that for you, that's where it's very cool, and you notice it, right?
Yeah, straight away. Straight away. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's just like you kind of walk into the room, and instead of like feeling like you're walking on eggshells, you're like, Okay, I can just sit here. Like, I don't have to talk to anyone. Like, they'll just accept it's me for me.
Mm.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
definitely it's a learning experience for sure.
Oh, no, thanks for sharing that. It's like fascinating. I mean, you and I obviously have just had convos in goalie rooms or in hotels or over Instagram and stuff. So yeah, it's also, I guess, it's a privilege for me to hear a bit more of your story as well.
Yeah, we're still working on sharing it, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, good job.
Okay.
I can't throw an arm around you because we're over the internet. So
Okay. Next question. I'm joking.
yeah,
Rachel, we're going to do the Unboxed 11. So, totally up to you. Answer it however you want. No pressure. I've had a million different answers in a million different ways. So, we'll just get into it. Okay.
oh, I'm excited. Yes.
First question, favorite time of the day?
Oh, it have to be in the evening. I'm a night owl, and that's sort of the only time that I stop because my day is usually really full on. And even if I get home from training at like 10 o'clock, I like to just sit on the couch for a tiny bit and just chill out and yeah, I suppose reflect on the day and start worrying about how long it's going to take me to fall asleep and all of those wonderful things.
Classic, fair. Okay, question two. What is the best compliment you've ever received?
It's not one specific one, but when I retired, I got, comments from people all around the world. And the ones that stuck with me were the parents of young kids that were like, you stayed and chatted to my child for a little bit longer after the game, or thanks for the moment where you chatted to the ball kid during a game because she's a big fan and that meant a lot, or my kid has stuck to goalkeeping because of you. Like they were the ones that um, yeah, it was sort of like my motto anyway, was like, yeah, people don't remember what you achieved, they remember how you made them feel. And I think for our fan base and especially little goalies and young athletes and stuff, that's something I tried really hard to focus on, of like, if someone wants a photo or a signature or a moment of my time, I really want to give it to them plus some. Yeah.
Okay, number three. What is the biggest learning experience that you've ever had?
Yeah, I've shared a couple with you. I think going through the belief belief work, learning to sort of believe in myself and understand who I am as a person. Yeah, I'll go with that one. I think that's really impacted me in so many ways, not just as an athlete, but as a person. And now it gives me a tool that I can help other people with, because it makes me pretty sad to think how many people don't have that, or that view of themselves, especially high level athletes, even ones that have played at the top of their game for years, they're still very self deprecating and don't have that belief. So yeah, I'll go with that one.
What makes you smile the most?
The current one for me, I lost my nan about a year and a bit ago. Anniversary was actually a bit over a week ago, and I have a few photos on my fridge of her, and I put them there deliberately because every time I open the fridge, which is a number of times a day, I look at the photo of her and it always makes me smile. Um, yeah, I had a really close relationship with her, and thankfully, after I retired, I stayed in Perth for a bit, but then moved back in time to get 6 months with her, where I was, helping with her care and just got some real quality time. For the 3 years leading up to that, I rang her every single day. Every day, she would ring me in the morning, let the phone ring, and then hang up, so I knew she was up and alive. And then across the day, I would always ring her, and we'd chat just about anything and nothing, talk about what she had, for lunch, what she did. She knew so much about me, and yeah, for 3 years straight we did that, and so it was really special. And then yeah, now when I think back, I'm happy that she's where she is. That's where she wanted to be, and I just smile thinking about her. So
Oh, amazing. Oh, the photos on the fridge though. Love that.
I'll send you a
Okay.
picture when I get home.
Yeah, do please. Okay, next one. Three things you can't live without.
Oh, my sort of diary. So whether that's phone calendar, I've got a kind of big paper desk one as well. Another practical one, my sunnies. Maybe I'll go with my bike, actually. That's playing a pretty key role in my life. It's now how I get to work. It's kind of like my therapy to go and do that. Plus, it's a great form of exercise. So I'll go with those three.
I feel like I know you, I think, now more through biking and what bike you have than
Oh my
anything
God.
else because I'm so jealous of your bikes, pretty much.
Oh, thanks. One of them's for sale, so while I've got two, make it out to Melbourne and we'll go for a spin.
Oh, well, that would be, well, no, I would be very far behind you, so I don't know if I could do that to myself.
No, but funny people say that. Like I ride with, generally I ride with people that are fitter than me because I just like that, one, I can sit behind them, but also it pushes me. But if someone will come for a ride, I'm there for the socials, I'm there for the coffees. Like I'd rather do a 10K loop with 3 coffee stops than do an 80K hard ride, like any day of the week. And now that I'm retired, I don't care, like if the ride goes for 10 minutes or whatever.
Number 6, what's inspiring you in your life right now?
So for the last year and a bit, I've started working at the VIS, so the Victorian Institute of Sport. And it's I work in an athlete wellbeing role. We call it performance lifestyle, but I'm looking after 4 different sports. So obviously I know hockey very well, but I'm now working in wheelchair basketball, cycling, shooting, and surfing, and great variety of sports. And I'm just loving learning about so many different ones, individual sports, para sports. And yeah, feeling particularly inspired, not just by high level athletes that are at the Olympics winning gold medals, but also the younger ones coming through, 17, 18-year-olds that I guess I now have the privilege of having an influence on their athlete journey and their life. And yeah, that's been super inspiring because you get to meet some awesome people through hockey, but now I get to sort of broaden that to other sports.
I wish I had you whenever I was younger, Ben.
Yeah, but you were the same for other athletes now. Like it's the same thing.
Hopefully.
No, I'm sure it is.
Fair. Okay, if you weren't a hockey player, what would you have been?
Yeah, played basketball this evening. We had a win. I played basketball as a kid. That was like my sport. My brother played as well. He's 6'6", so he still plays, but socially. And I when I look at goalkeeping versus field player, I'm very confident that had I been picked as a field player back then, that I wouldn't have played for Australia. Whereas basketball, I think, had I been picked in the state team then and kept going, I feel like I could have played basketball for Australia. I mean, you never know, but
you have to have the belief in yourself.
Well, that's it. And I think the reality of like hockey field players have to have a really good engine, being physically, aerobically fit is so important. Whereas my body, my genetic makeup is more short, sharp, agility, sprint, and that's suitable for basketball, whereas hockey, less so.
Question 8. What is the biggest misconception about you?
Oh, wow. I always get in trouble from my close friends because I don't use enough emotion in my texts or emojis, and I try really hard. But when someone texts me something, in my head, like, why would I ask how they are and all of that? I just answer it, and that's me being efficient and thinking I'm being helpful. But then sometimes I get like are you okay, or what's wrong, and it's like that was really clear and nice and appropriate in my head, but not for them. So I try really hard with that, but I'm still not quite there yet. So yeah, I guess people think that I'm either angry or upset or I don't know, all of those things, when in fact I'm just being efficient.
What's something you're tired of?
Online dating at the moment. Can I say that?
Fair. You can absolutely say that. We can leave it at that.
Oh.
Number 10, who do you turn to when you need lifted up?
I think even when I'm feeling like down or I need that, I'm still seeking a level of honesty. The mate that I go to the most is an old teammate, played for Hockeyroos, played for Victoria for many years. She's now our Hockey Club Melbourne coach. She's the VIS coach who I work with as a goalie coach. Mm-hmm. And any big thing I would go to her because I know that she'll be really honest. I think that's such a key part of it, and probably knows me well enough too to know when I need a firm message or when I do need a little bit of a lift me up, like you said.
Rachael, it's been fantastic to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time out to just tell, and share some of your stories on just how much of an amazing person you are. So again, thank you for joining me on Unboxed. And you never know, we might have another episode together soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Lovely way to spend my Sunday evening. So thanks heaps for your time.
You're very welcome. Well, enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening and we'll speak soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, mate. See ya.